Welcome to the Medic Materials Podcast. If you came here for a healthy dose of EMS professionalism, you just made a huge mistake. Each week, we discuss all things EMS, review some calls. We also try to get you to pry open your wallets and buy some cool merch and join the Patreon. Somewhere along the way, we also do a fair amount of education and say some smart things. So push the kids out of the room, settle in, and let's get started.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the Medic Materials Podcast. Try and say that
so
like
close.
I'll try and say it like Emily. Podcast.
Padcast.
Podcast.
Padcast from Boston, from Southie.
We love you, Em. It's all in good love.
It was wicked smart intro.
Wicked smart, right?
Wicked smart.
We do have to thank Def Lev. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but that is the maker of our brand new intro that you guys just heard for the 2025 year. If you don't like it, I don't care because I really do. So sucks to be you. You just need to become a member of Medic Materials, and then you can actually make decisions like Gerard. Hi, Gerard. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing fine, as you can tell.
Right, Gerard stayed up.
Sound like I just stayed up late and smoking a freaking carton of Marlboros. You know?
I was gonna say the 5 guys and 10 nuts, but sure.
Oh,
go with carton of.
Sorry, I stole the thunder there.
So we recently did a skit where I had it wasn't an Uber driver, but it was like a DoorDash driver. And I was like, where's my 5 guys? And he's like, yeah, bring those 10 nuts.
I was like, 5 guys? You mean 10 nuts?
I do apologize that I am not on video today, but literally nothing is working on my video side of things. So you get my beautiful, lovely image that Gerard took while what were we doing, Gerard?
We were doing a podcast and your screen froze in that face. And I just like, ooh, screenshot.
Brilliant. For any of those that are watching.
How many memes has that been?
So many.
Oh yeah.
So many. Every time I hate my students, that's the one he makes it out of. Miss Emily, Miss
certified badass,
flight nurse and EMT extraordinaire. You know, it was funny. I just recently was listening to Fruit Loops, I think is the name of the episode that we did. And Emily, you were on it, and Butch was on it. Gerard missed out on it. It would have been a great conversation that Gerard would have been involved in, but it was the first episode that we did after you got hired on as a flight nurse. So we
were like,
yay! And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. She's so cool. Yep. So how time flies, especially when, we kind of took a break because of scheduling reasons. My schedule's insane. Your guys' schedule's insane. And we kind of had to, come to a point where we said, all right, hey, we, have had people ask. Emails have been sent. People have come up to me at shows and been like, oh, where the fuck are you guys? Are you dead? Why are you not recording? And to be 100%, it is really hard getting 5 people in the same room at the same time, especially with our busy lives. So scheduling has mostly been the crux of our issues. And, one of the things that Gerard and I have always said is, if people are open and honest and tell the truth, you bond with them even more. So we are not here to bullshit you guys. It has literally been a scheduling disaster with all 5 of our schedules to get even 2 of us in the room at the same time to be able to do this show for you guys. Not that we haven't tried or we haven't missed doing this show. But we
could have done it with just 2, but it's like
Well,
You miss that extra dynamic of having like Emily with us, you know.
and
Um,
that's exactly it. So one of the things that you and I had talked about, Gerard, was, you and I are the OGs of this show, and that will never stop. That will continue because, again, there is no show if I'm just doing it, and there's definitely no show if people aren't laughing with the most favorite host, which is Gerard. Um, Never once am I at a show or a convention or a conference and someone comes up and they go, "Oh my God, you're Turek. We love you on your show." They go, "Please tell Gerard he's my favorite." And I'm like,
Thank you.
"Thanks."
And I was gonna say we were bunk room OGs, but then that could be totally taken out of context.
That could totally be taken out of context. You definitely don't want that. If you know how this show started, that
If you know, you know.
yeah, right. That will make sense. But what we're gonna do is Gerard and I will always be here, and then whoever we can get, Emily, one of the again OGs of the show, is here with us today. Phil's not, Butch is not. We were gonna try and bring in CJ. She's been on the show once today, once so far. But we're more or less going and breaking it down to whichever that third voice is. As long as it's not Kelly, I'm good with it. And,
Damn.
I know, right? It's why you haven't heard her.
Right? like shit on Kelly Day. Holy crap.
I mean,
man.
why not? But that's the plan going forward. So I think it lends itself to having a lot of new discussions out there in the the sphere of Medic Materials podcast. Couple other things, just get the housekeeping things out of the way. If you guys have been looking for it, the Patreon is now shut down. There is no more Patreon page for Medic Materials. I want to thank each and every single one of you guys that were Patreons. Those podcasts that have been on the Patreon are slowly getting moved over to the CME Academy for CME credit, which is probably the worst idea I could ever have as a CIC.
Think about that.
I mean, if the state hasn't shut us down already, I don't know what else it's gonna take. But if I was a betting man, it would be the episodes from the Patreon. If you guys are interested in hearing those types of episodes, those will be on their own special page on the Medic Materials CME Academy here in the near future. Otherwise, we're just going to kind of mix them in and be like, yo, guess what? This one's going to be a wild ride today. So the regular show is going to showcase a little bit of the more crazier calls that previously we would have held for the Patreon only page. Lastly, I just want to say there are a ton of new stickers out from Medic Materials. So hop on to medic-materials.com. All of the new stickers are on there. There is White Cloud EMS. There is all the Narcan. There is Couple Bumps. I Survived EMT and Paramedic School. Time the Nut Up or Shut Up are just a few of the ones that we have released in the last few months. So, make sure if you're a sticker hound, there you go. Go get your stickers on medic-materials.com. The last thing is we've had multiple agencies contract with us. I just want to say thank you and a shout out to the Glenville Hill Fire Department, as well as the Cobleskill Rescue Squad for contracting with Medic Materials for all of your CME needs. So if you are an agency out there looking for a better way of doing EMS education and CMEs online, stop right here and go to Medic Materials CME Academy.thinkific.com. Look out at what we can offer, and then get in touch with me, info.medicmaterials@gmail.com, so that we can talk about how we can provide your CMEs just like an EMS1 or whatever platform that you guys might be using that people
Only better.
people are just clicking through and not actually taking all of the education. I had a guy reach out to me because I'm everyone's IT guy. He reached out to me and he goes, and sorry, Jim, but your name's gonna be blasted through here because I thought it was fucking hysterical. Jim is a recent contractee through his department, and he loves us so much that literally within like 1 week he had listened to 47 episodes.
Wow.
And he's like, "What do I do now?" I was like, "Slow down. That's what you do. Slow down."
Does he have an accent by chance?
No,
Oh,
he
okay.
does not. But Jim is a lovely guy. I love him. He is he's absolutely awesome. Super fan. Been a fan for a long period of time. So thank
Great
you.
fan. Wonderful
Great
fan.
fan. Wonderful fan.
Wonderful fan.
But yeah, so you know,
I already got her shaking her head. She's like, oh, fuck.
you know, one of the things that that we have talked about a lot on this show, and this is what CJ had brought up in a conversation when we were at class one day, Gerard, was we mentioned, you know, provider laziness. We talked about in the station laziness. We talked about, you know, why are they lazy on calls? Why don't they just do the extra 12 lead? Why don't they, you know, go the extra step in asking these questions? But we never actually talked about laziness at its core, right? Where does it come from? Why is it there? Is it neurological? Is it, you know, just something that is innate in all of us that now we have to deal with it, right? And why is it such a infestation in the EMS community, right? And then what do we kind of do about it? You know, so we're leading off, you know, this new year with tackling one of, I think, the most problematic issues in EMS, which is just rampant laziness across the board, from administration to providers to educators to everywhere in between. So you know, I have a lot of information that I pulled on laziness and EMS, and you know, there was actually a lot of interesting things that I didn't even realize, like, ooh, hey, this is going to be an interesting conversation. But, you know, when I give you that broad topic, where do you guys immediately go? Like when I say EMS and laziness, what's your response to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like as you're saying, as you're talking, I'm like, you know, trying to think of like, you know, root causes of things like that. And it's like, I mean, we're all human beings and we've all been guilty of it at one point in time, just for whatever reason. And, you know, it's like, you know, there's some things like you can chalk up to fatigue, you know, because we all get fatigued at times, you know, you're not just from like one thing, but it could be, you know, multiple days just rolling into another, and you're just kind of, you know, your body's just kind of like, all right, you know, fucking, I'm due for a break, you know, or even mental fatigue where you're just like, you know, I need to chill. I mean, like, it's funny we're talking about CJ because, you know, I remember being her husband's partner one time, and he was going through this stretch where like he couldn't do a shift without somebody dying on him. And like we were talking about going out and painting fucking kill marks like on a fighter jet
Damn.
on his ambulance, you know what I mean? And so I mean, you know, and I just remember like he came in from a call one day. He's just like, I don't fucking get it, and he's just like I don't fucking get, like he wasn't talking to anybody in particular, just you know, just like his brain was like fucking what the fuck,
Right. Right.
you know. So I mean, you know, there's a mental fatigue factor, there's a physical fatigue factor, you know. I get shit like that, you know. We all understand stuff like that, but it's and I don't want to just put everybody in the same bracket, but I mean, there's like especially with the younger crop coming through, there's just this like it's almost like a challenge of how little can I do and still keep my job.
But I
You know what
think
I mean?
that plays into like an accountability factor.
Oh yeah.
Do the least amount of work and get away with it, why wouldn't I? And
Right.
that's kind of the mindset of a lot of people is like, oh, well, I didn't do this on the last call and nobody said anything, so I'll probably do it again.
Right.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, kind of, I want to hear your thoughts because I know you love the lazy provider. How many times you screamed and yelled in that one episode that I was just listening to was hysterical. I had forgotten how much you get. Rawr, why do they suck so much? Um, what do you, when EMS lazy, what are your immediate thoughts there?
I mean, I'm with Gerard on that. I think it's I think it's part of the culture, right? So if I'm a brand new provider and I'm going into this agency and I'm, have this really upbeat attitude about this job profession, and then I show up to the old grumpy whoever provider, and now it's like, wow, this kind of sucks, and it like changes your whole attitude. So I think it's multiple different factors. Um, but on Gerard's point, like with the younger generation or the new group of providers that are coming into the field, that's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's as like the seasoned providers, I think you have to remember that even if you're having a really shitty day, like put on the smile, be the sunshine, like pull your inner Kelsey out. And if you're happy at your job, you're going to put a whole lot more effort into it.
Yes. So one of the things that I want to bring in is, and you almost brought it up immediately, is, you guys are probably not going to be able to hear it, which totally blows. Where the hell did I put it? There it is. Is a video that I found just perusing different things about this subject over the last couple days. On TikTok, everyone knows Gary V. He's maybe Gerard doesn't because he doesn't watch TikTok, but Gary V is he's an entrepreneur. He does a lot of like TED Talk kind of things. And one of the things that he said um, was really interesting to me in tying it to laziness and the workplace. So hopefully you guys
I think being lazy is a good thing. Let me explain. This is gonna be an interesting moment. I think quote unquote laziness can have a more thoughtful conversation of actually, is it laziness or are you showing yourself that you don't like that thing and it becomes a mechanism to self-awareness? I think we need to stop apologizing for being lazy, all of us, which is probably subconsciously why I don't talk about it. And we need to use it as an indicator of, I don't like that thing, this job, this relationship, this school, and then use it as a starting point to try something else on the side that eventually can become your thing. And you can stop doing that thing that you're quote unquote lazy.
So did you guys hear that?
I heard it with some kind of weird music in the background.
Oh, I know. It was freaking TikTok.
I was like,
and watch, I'm gonna get
is
a
that just me?
fucking strike for that. Because it'll go up and it was copyright infringement, whatever. But the crux of his argument is that people who are lazy shouldn't apologize for being lazy, but they should look at it as an indicator that they are unhappy in what they're doing because they are not willing to put forth the effort to be excited about the job, to put forth in doing the 12 lead, doing the call, writing the chart, all of that stuff, that instead of just being more and more lazy and hating the job more and more, use it as an opportunity to go and find something that you actually care about, that you're not going to be lazy in. And I thought that was like a really interesting way of looking at laziness. What are you like? How do you guys take that? Because then I'll read you some stuff about like what Gerard brought up, fatigue and stress and EMS providers and laziness.
Well, I was going to say like what she had brought up even before the audio there was I think one of the biggest causes of the laziness, and that's the dissatisfaction with where you're, what you're doing. Because let's be honest, like we all know people who like the job is the bane of their existence. Like I know one right now who's, a very good friend of mine, and fucking despises going to work. Like it is like, waking up and it is the worst day of his life. And then he has to wake up the next day to go to the job and it's even worse, and it's like he just fucking hates every aspect of it. But he does it because it's all he's ever done, it's all he ever knows.
Right.
But
So
part of that is a issue of the profession, right? Because like we weren't lazy. Not that I'm saying that any of us here are lazy, but any
Right,
provider
yeah.
is not going into this field with the intention of being lazy and being a terrible
No,
provider.
we all had that, like, I want to fucking go get him attitude in the
Sure.
beginning.
But
Absolutely.
then
Yeah.
we've gotten beat down by the profession. We all have to work more than one job to make a living. The
Yeah.
shitty conditions. We're always getting yelled at by somebody. Like we've gotten beat down on every aspect of it. And now people are just kind of miserable. And I can see why. Like I get it. I think he has a great point. Like I do think that you being like a person being lazy in the job is showing you that this job is not making you happy anymore. You're not happy doing this. So go find something that does.
Right.
Yeah.
And just listen to this, because I think this is really interesting in the whole low motivation thing, right? Gerard and I have talked about this. Emily, you and I have not talked about this in a long period of time, or about this at all, but we just haven't discussed anything in a long period of time. But I love Grok, the AI engine from Elon. It's awesome. And all I did was plug in a couple things just to see what it would spit out. And listen to what it spit out when I asked, why do workers, just workers in general, become lazy? It says the brain's cost is a cost benefit machine. The prefrontal cortex and striatum team up to weigh effort against reward. If the payoff, i.e., money, appreciation, or just a sense of purpose, feels too small or too far off, motivation stalls. Dopamine's the gas pedal here. When it's low from stress or boredom or exhaustion, tasks feel like climbing a mountain for a pebble.
Right.
Studies show dopamine dips when work's repetitive or meaningless. Think assembly lines or endless paperwork. But I can even go in and say there's a lot of repetitive EMS.
Oh yeah. Dude.
EMS is nothing but repetitive.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't think about it like that, but 12 calls, 8 of them being difficulty breathing at different patients, 5 of those being frequent flyers. That's repetitive.
Well, I was even going to go beyond that. I mean, let's face it. I mean, out of 8 calls, 1, maybe 2 are actually like what we would consider like a legit call, and the others are just, nursing home to the freaking hospital, this to that, or a shuck or something like that. And it's like, yeah, man, after a while, you're just like, there's no fucking, I'm not here making a difference. I'm just here picking something up and putting it down.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's an easy way to lead into burnout.
Yep.
It's so easy to get lost right into burnout. And I think that is where, you have that new fresh student. And we've talked about it on the show many times where we don't give that perspective to the student. That's like, yes, you're going to go in and you're going to save lives. You're going to see what's on Reno 911. Boom. That's what you're going to do.
Wait, Reno 911?
That was
I want to see that.
Right. I was glad you picked up on it.
Yeah.
So I would be involved. I would love to see.
I'd wear EMS tight shorts.
Right. You can see, if you follow the evolution of students from where they're like, yeah, we are awesome. This is going to be fantastic. And then you see them a year later and they're just
beat.
They're beat. Their shoulders are sunk.
Oh, yeah.
Their eyes look
Shoelaces are
terrible.
untied. Shirts untucked.
They just have lost all care because they've been beat into submission.
Yeah.
Where do you I think all of that stems from improper management, but talking directly to the managers that listen to this show and potential managers that might be listening to this show. How do you fix that? How do you go about fixing that part to make sure that these people don't get unmotivated?
I mean, I think you start with setting realistic goals, right? So like as an EMT and they're like, okay, I want you to do 50 patient transports in 6 months. I can't control that.
Right.
I can't control that at all.
Yeah.
So like make realistic goals, make attainable goals, make EMS fun again. Give them something to make this fun. I remember
the
when
next sticker.
like now there's trackers in ambulances and there's governs and they see where you are every second. And like if I stopped on the way home from the hospital for a coffee, nobody cared. Now all of a sudden they're on the phone the second you get off the highway. What are you doing?
Yeah, fuck you. That's
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got lost on my way to your mom's house. Sorry about that.
Right. Gerard, what about you?
Well, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with, there's no, because I've been chewing on this, trying to put it into words the whole time we've been talking about it since she started talking about the, it's the workplace, and it really is, because that kind of just lit the light bulb. So I'm going to try to put it into words. So when we say there's no incentive, not only is there no incentive as far as from like a doing things standpoint, but there's also no incentive as far as promotions. I mean, okay, you're an EMT. Okay, well, I could go be an AEMT. Half the places in New York State don't even recognize it and pay you any more for it. Okay, so now what? You're going to be paramedic. Okay, so you make a little bit more money. Couple, not a fucking grand scheme, fucking change in pay, but a little bit more money.
Mm-hmm.
But now you've got all this added responsibility on top of it, and then that's it. That's as high as you go. There's nothing above that.
Right.
Oh, what are you gonna work? Get your critical care stuff and go work for a commercial ambulance doing critical care. Okay, well, yeah, you can go do that, but they're few and far between that'll only do critical care stuff. So the rest of the time you'll be sitting on a bus doing paramedic shit, and you probably won't make that much more. So there's nowhere to go. And I was thinking about it, and there was one agency I remember up there that kind of like they embraced the reality of it all. And they were like, yeah, we don't sit there and put into 401ks and retirement stuff because we know these people aren't going to be here to retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I offering these people retirement packages when they're on the average person is going to be here for around 3 to 5 years, and that's it. So, and so they geared their entire model for dealing with personnel in that aspect. So,
I remember when that came down around here. Yeah.
Yeah. So they gave better pay. Some other stuff, they didn't have any benefits. There was none of that shit. It was just like mandatory healthcare, and that was it. But you got better pay, you got better equipment, better working conditions, things like that. And and within 3 to 5 years, you were gone. So they were like revolving door on the on the hiring process, and they just accepted it and said this is just the way it's going to be. I think the problem is, EMTs in the very beginning coming into EMT school should probably be told stuff like this, like, hey, your shelf life is 3 to 5 years as basic. And if you go to paramedic, you might add a few more years after that. But within 10 years, unless you really get into something special, like nursing or, helicopters, shit like that, or even like the really cool super, critical care transports on the ground. If you're not into any of those things within 10 years, you're probably fucking either going to be gone or you're going to be one of these lazy assholes that doesn't do shit. That shows up for a paycheck.
Why can't we make EMS a career? Like, why do I have to spend all that time? If I get into EMT and I'm like, wow, I really love this, I'm really happy
Right.
for my medic, why is there shelf life on me? And part of that is because we don't treat it like a career.
Right.
At least up here, it's not treated as a career. There's no way to retire from it. It's way too taxing on your body because of all the expectations on
Right.
you. And nobody focuses on self-care.
Right.
If I'm at home and I'm tired and all these things, then I'm going to be miserable at work.
Yeah.
Correct.
And, you know, you throw in the ability to, you know, something that I'm going through now, right? And have been through with the instructor side and the work side of things is, like Gerard said, there's no great way of moving up, right? Even if there becomes a management position open, right? You are not guaranteed that managerial position, right? So then you go
Yeah.
back to being just, okay, I'm going to provide care, right? But where are the, you know, middle aspects of giving people a little bit more responsibility, but they're still not management, but they're managing an aspect of things. So instead of just being like, okay, we have a chief of operations and that's your management structure. Okay, why don't you have a chief of operations and you have some shift leaders, right? Underneath the shift leaders, you could have a QI body of people, right? So you're giving people that have to interview and go out for a specific job a little bit more responsibility in their field that they care the most about, right? If I know that I really love QI and I want to read all the charts and make people better via QI purposes, I'm going to go be a BLS QI specialist or an ALS QI specialist. Maybe I'll get 50 cents an hour more for that. Nothing crazy, but it's something. And I can attach that to a resume. I was a BLS QI specialist as an EMT at such and such agency, right? That gives people the prospect that there isn't a glass ceiling.
And I would say that that would be good. But again, you know, everything's going to land on management. You know, the buck stops there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you can have somebody in these positions, but if they are just positions in name only, that you
Right.
know, whatever they do
As
has no
John
weight
Tapper
behind
would
it.
say, they're supervisors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because I can tell you right now, like doing QA, and you're like, cool. I've never done this before. I'm really going to do my best and try to do a good job at this. And you put forth an earnest effort, but oh my God, you start seeing some not so good things happening, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do what I do. Okay. Flag it, do what I got to do, write down, you know, my thoughts on it and put it in. And at the end of the day, nobody cares about that shit. All they care about is taking that and sending it to billing and get the money for it. They don't give a fuck about the practice of the person doing it. They don't give a fuck about the questions you've brought up. They don't give a fucking rat's ass. All they want is the money from that fucking trip.
Right.
So
There has to be
you can kill
accountability.
somebody and they will fucking, I've seen someone kill somebody and they've just went like, oh, well, send it to billing.
Right.
The
There
end.
has to be accountability, because think about it, how much accountability takes a hold of if you see that.
I will say that was the point when I was like, from this point forward, I'm just clicking check, 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 done.
Well,
And
that's
I
it.
never read another chart and just put them through.
And that's exactly it. So
Once I realized that's how that was going to work, then
right.
there was no reason to do
And
anything.
think
more than
about how many other providers have been in the same situation, G, where, you know, you go in, you're doing a great job, you see something and you bring it to the attention of upper management or whatever, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't go anywhere. So
Yeah.
there's no accountability to it. So there's no re-education, there's no firing, there's no nothing. So now what incentive do you have to be the best if you know that this schlub over here is beneath your ability, but is being treated exactly the same?
If not
Right?
better.
Right, if not better, where's that incentive?
Yeah.
I feel like Emily wants to weigh in on this.
Oh no,
Not that
I'm, wait,
way.
I'm waiting.
That was the point that I brought up earlier, was like the accountability of it.
Yeah.
Why do a job if it's not going to matter at the end of the day?
Right. You know, and I think self accountability goes a long way, right? And this is something that has become a personal pet peeve of mine recently, in that a large section of our body of providers needs to come out and just finally admit to the world that they do this job not for patients, but for themselves. Because that goes a long way in holding yourself accountable to a standard, right? If I go in every single day and I know that I am here to provide care the best of my ability through my protocols that the doctors have laid down for bettering patient outcomes, I'm going to be a better provider because I want to see a positive change in the human life that I'm touching.
Yeah.
But if I come in and I just go, yeah, I'm totally doing it for the patient, but I'm not willing to get up at 3:00 in the morning to go do a call, you're really doing it for yourself because you're not there for your patient. And you just need to admit to yourself that you're doing it for yourself and stroking your own ego. How many people are in this just for themselves? Easy money, lazy job. I can earn money.
Earn money sleeping. Yeah.
I can get away with doing 2 shifts in a week and be done and get 5 days off. Right? And they're in it for the wrong reasons. They're not in it because they actually care about the human life that they're touching. That is, I think, another aspect of where this begins is the actual human beings that we're choosing to being in this business.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't even think, I believe wholeheartedly that none of them start off that way. I believe wholeheartedly everyone starts off taking that first step into EMT class, wanting to do good, wanting to do something cool, something that is going to be a benefit to somebody else. You know, not even if it's it's a stepping stone to become a nurse or whatever. Still, there is an end game to, you know, doing things for other people, and then somewhere along the way, all that other shit kicks in. The no accountability, watching the fucking retards get moved up the food chain, and you're like, huh, how did they get that position? They can't get out of bed on their own in the morning, you know? And it's like, well, then fuck, what the hell am I doing here? Well, I guess I'm just here for a paycheck. What was that? I didn't hear you.
Why bother? Like, if everyone else can get away with it, why not me?
Right.
So you guys brought up a couple other things that that I was finding in just doing research about things, because, you know, laziness is not like a learned trait. Like, it's not inherently in our body, in the brain, right? It is typically a production of a bunch of symptoms that manifest into being lazy, right? So again, I went to Grok and I asked it, what causes an EMS worker to become lazy, right? And the first and foremost one that it said, it gave me 4 different ones: chronic stress, sleep, burnout, physical fatigue. Those were the 4 big ones that it hit, right? Chronic stress hammers the prefrontal cortex, brain's decision-making hub. EMS workers face constant adrenaline spikes, rushing to scenes, making split-second calls, which floods them with cortisol. Over time, too much cortisol can dull that prefrontal activity, making it harder to stay productive or motivated. Studies on first responders show that this can lead to decision fatigue, where they just stop pushing as hard because their brain's tapped out. And I will actually add on to that one with an interesting personal story of mine here in a second. Then there's sleep. EMS shifts, 12, 24 hours, often overnight. Sleep deprivation tanks dopamine, a feel-good chemical tied to effort and reward. Without it, even basic tasks feel pointless. Research shows that workers links this drop in the striatum function, which is the brain's reward system, basically shrugs at work. Burnout. Jobs emotionally draining, seeing trauma, losing patience, dealing with families. The amygdala, which processes those heavy emotions, can get overloaded. When it does, people withdraw or avoid to protect themselves. A 2021 study on EMS workers found over 30% hit burnout levels with apathy as a common symptom. Physical fatigue. Hauling gear, lifting patient wears you down. If the body's screaming for rest, the brain follows, prioritizing survival over hustle. Add inconsistent breaks or poor nutrition, grabbing junk on the fly, for example, and energy. It says craters, so decreases. So, one of the things that I've so lots of people know about my ambulance accident in 2008 when I was involved in that, but I still go to chiropractors and masseuses to take care of the back issues that I've had over
Masseuses.
masseuses. And I recently just tried a new chiropractor, and they did these really interesting scans of my spine and nervous system. And they were like electrical scans where they could tell, like, okay, your parasympathetic is activating now, your sympathetic is activating now. That one was more like a polygraph, the way it was read. And then which nerves actually fire more than other nerves. And I just thought it was really cool. Something I had never done at the chiropractor's office before. And the guy was like, yeah, so I know you're a paramedic. You probably know this, but just in case you don't, you have 3.5 times the nerves for your sympathetic as you do your parasympathetic. So for every one nerve in your rest and digest, you have 3.5 nerves for your fight or flight system. He goes, you are parasympathetic heavy. And I said, what does that mean? And he goes, it means that you have utilized your sympathetic nervous system so much that those nerves, those 3.5 nerves for every one regular nerve, have gotten so damaged that now your parasympathetic is trying to do the work of your sympathetic. And I said, no shit. So, and he knows what I do for a living. And I go, so EMS, like chronic levels of high stress, fight or flight, all this stuff. He goes, absolutely. It burnt out my sympathetic nervous system. So now my parasympathetic nervous system is on this, overdrive, he says, where I should be switching, but I'm not anymore as often, right? I still do, but not as often as people should. So, hearing that and then thinking about this kind of situation, right? I've done almost 20 years in EMS, and, we've talked about all the different brain changes and brain chemistry that changes, but your nervous system actually changes too and breaks down and degrades over time. So if I'm not sitting there going, I'm really happy and excited to do this because that's my fight or flight taking over, I'm just going to be meh about it because my parasympathetic is heavy. Right. And it totally made sense. And, like that's something that now I have to think about when doing tasks. Like, hey, I got to get motivated to do this, even though I might not be. Again, self-awareness. It's kind of crazy.
I was just gonna say, but you're self-aware enough to be able to recognize that, or like there's a lot of people in EMS that are just gonna go with that and run, like, oh, another call, oh,
Right.
this, I always tell people when they start like this, the day that you're not excited for a call, whatever it is the day you have to get out of EMS.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. And, that's why I brought up that whole Gary V thing. I really do look at that as, if you are so unhappy and have no way of changing the industry, right? You're not going to, change the way you teach EMT classes to teach these new students, hey, this is what happens, right? And here are the effects of it in 20 years, right? It is it is easier. Gerard, you said this literally the other day. It's easier to change the direction of EMS as an educator and take longer than it is to try and flip it as an administrator doing it quickly.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
There's just too many red flags in your way.
right. And whether it's pushback from the people who've been doing it for so long, that are the rank and file, or it's the administrators that this is how they do things. And they aren't willing to change. Again, it's just, you have to get to the corn, the seed corn, you got to plant the seeds in the beginning, and make them honest seeds, so that they understand this is what you're getting into. This isn't freaking TV. You're not, going to save a life every day. You know what I mean? It's going to be a mundane existence most of the time, and then you're going to have these moments where it's just going to be like, holy shit, time to shine. But yeah, you just have to be honest with them coming up, and then really teach them, I think even as EMTs, like I know a lot of people going through EMT, classes, they're like, eh, learn the monkey skills, that kind of stuff. Not a lot of thinking involved, beyond whatever the state, or national registry wants you to do. But yeah, I think, making them realize that there's so much more they can do. Thinking, thought process wise, hey, let's calculate tidal volume. Hey, let's think about drug dosages and routes and things like that. I mean, it just goes beyond just, well, I'm going to stick him with an EpiPen. Well, how much is going in?
I don't know, one EpiPen.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It just things like that where, you just kind of get them a little bit more, excited about what they're doing, and then counter that with the reality of, so this is what it's going to be like. All right. This isn't, you're all that shit you saw on TV. It ain't going to happen,
But I also think that you have to encourage them, because you get out of EMS what you put into it. So like, even these new providers, or even me, if I'm going out on a ground call, like, okay, it's a pick me up. Oh, they fell. They're complaining of hip pain. Let's go to the hospital. Like, how unexciting is that? Okay, well, what in their hip could be wrong? Like, let's go through the med list. Do I know whatever all these meds are? How
Right.
there's an opportunity in every aspect of EMS if you want it.
And the
Dude, I remember I was new at this one agency, between where I lived and the big city, right along that strip of highway. And it was, the whole agency covered 7 miles, and you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, I just started there, and we went to a house for a little old lady, fall call, tripped and fell. We get in. Now this is where the ambulances are all BLS, medics were in fly cars. All right. So we get there ahead of time. Medic's still en route. We go in, we're helping her up. I'm asking questions. Now my partner was one of my former students, was actually my very first EMT class that I taught. And so, she's wanting to impress and all that stuff. And so she's asking some good questions. And I said, what are the questions you want to ask, And so she asked, well, have you had any other falls? And she said, oh, I've been falling a lot this week for some reason. You guys have been over here a few times. Like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
At this time, the medic shows up and comes in and goes, oh, okay, I'm going to go get the paperwork. And literally just doesn't do it. Said nothing, just turns around, heads back to his freaking fly car to go get the RMA paperwork. And I'm like, why don't you take a blood pressure? While we're waiting, okay, we got to fill out our own paperwork, so let's take some vitals. So we took vitals. Yo, her blood pressure was through the fucking roof, man. We came back in, and I'm looking at the medic. I'm like, yo, this is what we just got for a manual BP. Really? Yeah. Oh. He comes back in with his monitor, puts it on, and sure enough, there it was. I was like, well, I guess we're not signing her off, are we? Yeah, she's been having little fucking strokes all fucking week long.
Mm-hmm.
Because she couldn't remember. I remember, yeah, it was, well, do you remember falling? Were you tripping on rugs? She's like, no, for some reason, I would just end up on my butt. And she couldn't remember the fall. But she would remember she would end up in a seated position on the floor.
But like that EMT that caught that, your first student, it should be so excited that they caught that.
Oh, she was too. Yeah.
Do good assessments.
Yeah.
And it might sound crazy, but this is this has been my mentality since I started. And I don't know what you guys do to keep calls fresh and stuff, like and being that excited to go on calls. But I have turned calls into a game of find out what's wrong, right? It's my own murder mystery in my head, right? And if I'm going to succeed, I have to do a good job, right? So by playing the game of I have to know what's going on here, I'm going to do the whole assessment, be really cool with my patients. Like I'm going to dig deeper.
So
And
maybe before each call, instead of tones, we should just have Triple H's intro song.
there you go. Yes, sounds like a freaking.
I'm the game. Oh, I got Lemmy's voice too.
As long as I can, throw up my hands and spit water at my fly car.
Right. There you go.
I'm there. I'm there. But like those little things, I always tell my EMT students, you are a detective. You are there to figure out a murder mystery, right? That to me is a fun game aspect of this whole thing, find things like that keeps it fresh. It's not, oh, it's just another call. Okay. Why did they fall? Did they trip?
Right.
Like, did they trip because they stubbed their toe? Did they trip because they had a stroke? Why, like all these things, and you're ultimately going to get better at your job. And that's where I like to see success, is like when people know that they're getting better, right? I sent you guys a text a little while ago in the instructor group. One of our previous students reached out and said, hey, I see a difference between myself as an EMT and the EMT that came from another class. And it is shocking. And I'm so glad that I took your class and that I think differently about these calls, because we teach the critical thinking aspect of things. Yeah. And that is like the nicest thing anybody as a student could say to any of us. Like, I noticed that the time and effort you put into me paid off, So
I guess my question is like, does this extend into the nursing stuff too?
That is it. I was just,
I was thinking about that. Like, even though you're at the higher level, I mean, you still end up with the same fucking kind of shit though, right?
In what aspect? Like the
is there a laziness aspect in nursing too?
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. The thing is though, is like they incentivize nursing because they get paid well. Or, oh, I just need a year and then I can be a traveler and get paid really well. So I think you almost see it more, with the exception that like we're not really responsible for much.
Wow.
Because I can't tell you how many times you go in the hospital and you're like, I do a lot of QI at the hospital. I was like, do you realize that you didn't do a primary assessment on a single one of your patients in 12 hours? Not one. Fuck. But that doesn't come back to kick them.
No accountability.
Supervisor telling you that and you're like, oh, okay, I'll do better next time. Walk away. There's no accountability there.
Wow.
There's none. And it doesn't matter. They are there for a paycheck. There are some nurses that are there for a paycheck. But you also see like, oh, this nurse, he or she is really thinking that through. Like, they went to a different school. You can tell. Right. I mean, I think that point that Turk just made is also true in nursing.
Yeah. Wow. And I think it, just like we always say, management and education, that's really what it comes down to, but personal accountability, understanding why you're in this job and being okay with yourself enough to go, you know what? I could do better at somewhere else, doing something different, not doing this as a career because I am so unhappy.
But I also think you have to remember, like, what was the purpose of you going into it, right? Because healthcare right now is miserable to work in. I get that. But if you sit down and you're like, okay, I had a really tough shift. That's behind me. We're going to move on. We can have a good shift. Or if every day is like that, like, what changed? Are you unhappy because you're burnt out? Are you unhappy because you're not taking care of yourself? Are you not able to decompress? Like, what is it?
Right.
Well, so, I mean, I know. So if you just took like a let's just say a municipal agency where you're running, 911 calls, maybe a, return to home transfer or something like that here and there. I think, I know for me personally, there was more of a feeling and a sense of being part of something that was greater, that was appreciated by the people that we served, versus like a commercial transporting agency where like this friend of mine is working right now, and
They
it's
don't
just
give a
like
fuck.
they will send them from, and this is no joke. It's you'll show up for your shift in Hobart and you'll end up in Newburgh doing stuff down to the city, doing stuff up to Albany, back to Newburgh, and then within 2 hours of the end of your shift time, they'll give you another one.
Mhm.
And then when it's all said and done, you get to drive all the way back to Hobart. If you know where these places are, they're like 2 hours apart from each other.
I mean,
All of
that's
them.
with management though, right? Like you have to
Right. That's
like
horrible management.
not just like numbers, employee numbers. Like there has to be some give and take in this, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the things that the air medical I thought does a really good job. Like, not that I'm not going to start, I could start in Potsdam and end up in the city, or start in Potsdam
Right.
and Philly, but when you get back and you're like, I need a minute to breathe, and they're like, yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
as the littlest things,
Mhm.
that the littlest things mean the most, because if the management or the dispatchers or whatever are overlooking the little things, right? They don't give two fucks about you. But if they're sitting there and they're going, hey, Gerard, Emily, really good job on that call you did yesterday. I read that chart. It sounded horrible. I talked to a couple other people that were there. Guess what? You guys did a bang up job. That goes a long way, right? Heck, I just made Gerard smile even on a fake kudos, right?
Well, I mean, I
Because how
was
often does that happen? We get
never.
inundated with
Yeah.
nasty text messages. Hey, you guys need to do this better. Hey, this was fucking dirty. You need to clean it better. Hey, this ambulance was not stocked. You need to stock it better. Never once do we get a manager going, hey, we did 57 calls this week, and I just want to say kudos to these 5 individuals for these 5 really awesome things.
You know what? I will be honest, and I will say, and this is going to come out of left field, but the place where CJ is working now, the person she works under, in my entire career, he's the only one who used to do shit like that. Like, I will never forget. We had, I think, 4 trucks on or something. We did 48 fucking calls on a shift.
Whew.
Between like 3 or 4 trucks. Like we were down a truck that day and stuff, and we were covering a whole county and all this shit.
Fun.
And he was like, "Yo, guys, fucking bang the fuck up, way to freaking rock the show." You know what I'm saying? And like, yeah, and you left that shift like we just did something,
Right.
even though we got our balls knocked around, like a fucking speed bag. But I mean, it was it went somewhere, and it was like, and not only that, but then you have more respect for that person.
Right.
So when they ask you, hey, I got this late one pending. Can you do me a favor? Fuck yeah, I'll do you a favor. No problem.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if it's somebody else, I'll be like,
Nah.
that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. I got kids to go pick up.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I got to get home, do the taxes, feed the hog. I'm out of here. See ya. And deuces. But no, I think it is a management problem, because especially at agencies like that, where I can tell you right now that everything I just told you about that is accurate. Like, that's what happens. And they don't care that you're a human being. All they know is, on my little screen, I have a truck here and I have a call here. And I'm going to make this truck here go to this call here. And then they're going to go from here to here. And then from there, I'm going to make them go back to here and over here and over here. And meanwhile, now it's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Sun's starting to come up again. They've been driving all night. Oh my God, like she said, oh, you pull over to stop for a second. Oh,
Why?
Why'd you stop?
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm on a 2-lane road and I see 6 lanes. What the fuck?
I was up at a conference recently, out near Buffalo, and I was talking with the one commercial agency out there. They had a table recruiting, and they had two supervisors, one a ALS supervisor and one a BLS supervisor that was there, and which I thought was cool. Give a BLS provider some street cred management,
Yeah.
cool beans. And we were getting to talking about different things, and he was putting together an invite, and he was, oh yeah, we got to invite this person for this ceremony and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, ceremony? Like, I was just butting into their conversation at that point.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, he goes, so one of the really cool things that we do out here, and this is like a national EMS company, right? But this is the only place that I had ever heard that this company does this. So it must be their local managers do this. And they're like, yeah, so every year, January 1st to December 31st, we have a wall in our building that leads from the crew room to the ambulances. And every single time that our crews get a save, a cardiac arrest save that walks out of the hospital, the call goes on this wall, right? And I forget, they had a name for it.
Yeah.
But this special wall, the call goes on the wall, a plaque is made for the wall, and then the agency has a ceremony with the crew and the surviving patient.
Very cool.
As like hey, this is awesome, good job. The crew and the patient get a photo taken together and they put it up on the wall, right? Yeah. So that everybody that's walking from the crew quarters to their trucks every single day can walk by all of the success stories in cardiac arrests, right?
It's really cool.
And I thought that was just so profound. I was like, that is cool, because then you could sit there and you can expand it, right?
Well, see, and this is
how many really cool, caths have we gotten people to the cath lab on?
Right.
How many strokes have we gotten there on time that they've walked out with minimal deficits?
How many diff breathers couldn't fucking breathe and they were fucking 120 on 80 fucking breathing on their own at the hospital? You know
exactly.
what I mean?
Like, those types of things are really cool and go a long way.
What was that?
Can I blow your mind right now?
Sure.
Yeah.
That was a national initiative that New York State just didn't get behind.
Of course they didn't.
What?
It's a CARES wall.
What?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, when New York State hires people who run agencies into the ground.
Well, you know why that agency's on board with it? Because they're a national company.
Bingo.
Right.
Yeah.
That's freaking unbelievable. All right.
Well, unfortunately,
There's in our region, we tried to push that through, your wife and I, and it did not get any traction.
Of course not, because it's different.
It's
innovative.
It all costs money.
Yep.
It doesn't cost any money. Okay, the plaque costs money. Who the freak cares? $10.
But our call volume.
I know, the call volume's down. So I want to leave you guys with this, right? A couple things that again, I pulled up on Grok here during the show. I asked Grok how to cure EMS laziness, right? Just a couple tidbits here. And if I can find this, right, like in 5 seconds, we should really start thinking about, the things that we talked about and just the simple fixes that to cure the culture of EMS laziness, right? So reset the brain's reward system. Dopamine is key. Small, immediate wins can kickstart it. Think quick recognition from a supervisor, a good job text or email, or breaking shifts into mini goals, like what Emily was saying, Make realistic goals. Think stabilize patient, then decompress, not all at once, right? Studies on motivation show tangible rewards beat vague promises. EMS agencies could gamify shifts, track successful calls, offer badges,
Bingo.
since the striatum loves that hit of progress. Cut stress overload. Chronic cortisol kills effort. Debriefs after tough calls can help. Let workers vent to a peer or counselor, not just bottle it. 2022 study on first responders found structured stress talks dropped burnout by 15%. Mindfulness tricks like 5-minute breathing breaks can dial down the amygdala's panic mode. Agencies should enforce downtime between calls. Constant go fries the prefrontal cortex.
Good luck with that.
I know, right? Fix sleep and fatigue. No dopamine, no hustle. EMS needs sane schedules. Cap shifts at 8 to 12 hours max. Mandate rest days. Sleep science says even 20-minute naps boost alertness. Because there's agencies that go, hey, you're here for a day shift. You're not allowed to sleep. Go fuck yourself. Workers can hack it too. Caffeine early, not late. A blackout curtain for day sleepers. Agencies could fund energy basics like healthy snacks, not vending machine junk to keep the body from crashing. This one, yeah. Boost morale and purpose. If the job feels pointless, effort tanks. Leadership's got to step up. Fair pay, clear promotion paths, and actual appreciation, not just lip service, or I'm throwing in there pizza parties. Pair newbies with vets for mentorship, build, I'm going to add on to that, appropriate veterans.
Right. People.
Not all
So, and that was the other thing,
good mentors.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's another, little thing you pay somebody a little extra money, they get to have a little FTO tab put on their uniform.
That's right.
And they've gone through a program that teaches them how to teach somebody new.
Right. Yes. So pair newbies with appropriate veterans of the business for mentorship. It builds connection. A 2020 EMS study survey showed workers with support teams were 40% less likely to check out, tie tasks to meaning, remind them each save matters. There's that care wall. Spot the deeper stuff. It's not just the job, say depression or ADHD. A worker might need more. Agencies can offer quiet mental health check-ins, no stigma, meds, or therapy can rewire motivation if it's chemical, but that's individual.
And I would even throw one more thing in there. And I would say paid training days.
Yes.
Paid days where you are paid to show up for 8 hours and train and do things that you don't normally do every day in all those mundane fucking calls.
Right.
So that way, when that one call comes through, you don't end up screwing the pooch and looking like a fucking turd.
Absolutely. Last one, practical moves for workers. On their end, EMS folks can trick their brains, set a timer for one task, move before overthinking. Exercise, even a quick run, spikes dopamine and cuts cortisol. Pick battles. Focus on what they can control, not the chaos. That was a you can't see him, John Cena thing. He would say it in all of his interviews, control the controllable. If you cannot control something, who the fuck cares about it? Because it has no bearing on you. You can't control it. Don't worry about it. Control the controllable. I think that will also help decrease stress. Anything else you guys want to add?
It is, it is funny, that last one, because I'm sure you see it too, even in the flight and in the hospital too, is people getting so bent over something somebody else did that has no fucking bearing on their fucking lives.
Yeah. Control the controllable.
But even like working in like the clinical aspect of it, when you get report from the ground EMS and they're like, yeah, they did this. And you're like, what? It's done. Who cares? Move on.
Right.
Move on. Like, why get worked up about it? Flight crews are really good at that. I will say that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. Well, guys, thank you very much for having this discussion with me. Thank you, everybody, for continuingly. I
You
don't know.
ding yourself.
Boom! First ding of
Ooh.
2025. I made it to the end of the episode. There you go. But thank you for continuing to listen to us. It has been a magical ride for like 5 seasons or 5 years that we've been doing this now since 2020. It is always fun to get on with you guys. It's fun to meet the people that actually listen to the show and enjoy us ranting and raving. So thank you to everybody. Gerard, do us the honor.
Emily and Corey to North Carolina donuts. Oh, she's got her donut. That's awesome.
Cronut.
The cronut. Buy cronuts. Buy more cronuts.
Your wife has to make me more cronuts.
Okay, well, oh, she got 2 of them. Oh shit. Yeah. Okay, she's gonna make more. All right. Awesome. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want more information about us and the podcast, or if you'd like to send us one of your messed up calls to review, visit medic-materials.com. There you can also find out how to earn continuing education credits just by listening to the podcast. We appreciate you spending time with us today.